This is the other love of my life. Cooper hasn't had much screen time here. Say hi. Bye. Hey guys, welcome back. All right, we are going to go over quadrilaterals. So yesterday we did stuff about different types of triangles, and now we're going to be talking about quadrilaterals. Quadrilaterals is a different kind of polygon. And what I want you to remember with quadrilaterals is that quad means four. You know when you play Fortnite and they say go get into quads? That's four different people, isn't it? So whenever you see quads, I might say something like quad goals. Get it, like squad goals, but it's quad goals. So that is our goal for today. There's not much like mathy math, like computing the numbers going on. It's really all about memorizing the definitions of these different shapes. So you're going to be working in your Pearson today. You are on Pearson 6, -2. And honestly, Miss Kujawa is going to keep referring back to all of this because this is where all of pretty much my answers lie. I just have to really wrap my head around what each different quadrilateral means, all right? So before we dive into our questions, let's annotate and take a look at this. Let's make it yellow. Yellow. All right. I'll zoom it back out. Okay, so our first one is called a trapezoid. And a trapezoid, by definition, has one pair of parallel sides, okay? So I want to dive into what parallel means. All right, so parallel lines are lines that are an equal distance from one another, and they keep going and going and going, and they never intersect. Here's another thing just to show you what parallel lines are. Again, they just keep going an equal distance from each other, and they never, ever, ever intersect. So, looking at our trapezoid, it said that there's only one pair. So remember, a pair is like your socks. So there's two, but it's only one pair. So if I zoom in on this trapezoid, and I say, these are the parallel lines. Those two lines, they're going to keep going and going and going, and they're never, ever, ever going to touch. Now these set of lines, what happens when these keep going? They eventually will touch. So instead of there being two pairs of parallel lines, there's only one. So that's our definition of a trapezoid. And I always tell my kids that when it keeps going, you end up getting into a trap. It traps you. So use that as to remind yourself. Alrighty, a parallelogram, and again you hear that word parallel and parallelogram, and a parallelogram has two pairs of opposite sides that are parallel and equal. So, if we zoom on in to this parallelogram, we have one set of parallel lines, two set of parallel lines, and they are equal to each other. So we're going to keep going here. The next one we have is a rectangle, and a rectangle is a parallelogram. So we have to pause for a minute because we're using one of the quadrilaterals to describe a different quadrilateral. That's the kind of not tricky thing about this lesson, but there can be more than one description that fits different quadrilaterals. So a rectangle is a parallelogram. Remember, parallelogram has opposite sides that are parallel. But with this rectangle, it has four right angles. So not only are the parallel lines going to keep going, that's one set, that's two set. What makes a rectangle unique in a rectangle is that there are four different right angles. Okay, going on to our next one. Our next one, I always love saying this, is called a rhombus. A rhombus. There's a rhombus among us. Kind of like the fungus. Okay, let's continue. The rhombus is also a parallelogram. So now we have to go back to parallelogram. What is that again? Oh yeah, it has two sides that are parallel. But the little twist is with this one is that there's four equal sides. So again, that's not a very good, oops, not a very good, let's get a little neater here. There's a one set of parallel lines, that's what makes it a parallelogram. And now what makes this one a little bit different and unique of a rhombus is that all the sides are equal. And that's what those lines show you, that the sides are equal. Alrighty, let's continue here. Last but not least, we have a square. And by definition, a square is a parallelogram. Again, also we have to kind of go back to that. So man, all three or yeah, all three of these are considered to be parallelograms. But this one has right angles and 4 equal sides. So it's almost like a little combination of the rectangle and a rhombus. So if I zoom on in, I'm going to check that it's a parallelogram. It has one set of parallel sides. It has 2 sets of parallel sides. It also has 4 right angles, and on top of that, it has 4 equal sides. So I'm going to keep coming back to this, that looks crazy when you zoom out, to help me answer some of these questions, okay? So our first activity, it says to identify the polygon and then to describe each polygon by as many names as possible. All right, I just want to keep in mind that we are going to be using these different types of quadrilaterals to describe what kind of polygon it is, But we also can use the word quadrilateral to describe the polygon, because remember, quad means 4. So although they're going to be different types of polygons, they're all going to be quadrilaterals because they all have 4 sides. Alrighty, so let's continue. Let's look at this very first one. So if we take a look at that picture, again, I do want to go back to my notes, but I want to take a look, use a different color, and I want to kind of go through, let's clear this up a little bit, blah, all my definitions. So if I look at the first one, I'll say, okay, number 1, is this a trapezoid? Does it have one pair of parallel lines? Is it at some point going to intersect and trap? No, it's not. These lines are going to keep on going. And look, those are parallel. These lines are going to keep on going. And those are also parallel. So I know it's not a trapezoid. If I look at my next one, it says a parallelogram. It has 2 pairs of opposite sides that are parallel and that they're equal. So it is a parallelogram. Let me use my black. Because I just got to keep everything in order. You know how I am. Parallel. You know, I always get confused with the R's. So 1 R, but then 2 L's in parallelogram. You know what I do like about that? Those 2 L's in parallelogram are parallel. They keep on going. And then I mentioned it earlier. I just didn't write it down. How many sides are there? 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is considered a quadrilateral. And we say quad goals, quadrilateral. All right, done with that one. It's almost like the triangles. We're just classifying it. Let's go to the next one. Actually, I want to keep going down the checklist just because I knew we were done, but let's continue. Would it be a rectangle? Is it a parallelogram? Yes, but does it have 4 right angles? No, it does not. So that one we can kind of check out. Is it a rhombus? Meaning, is it a parallelogram? Yes, it is. Does it have 4 equal sides? Not 4 equal. I mean, those 2 are equal, and those 2 are equal, but they're not all 4 equal, so it's not that one. And is it a square? Is it a parallelogram? Yes. Does it have 4 right angles? No. Does it have 4 equal sides? No. So that is why it could only be a parallelogram and then a quadrilateral. So let's get rid of all this. You guys always do it so much quicker than me. Okay, now let's go to the next one. We are looking at this shape over here. And again, there are how many sides? 1, 2, 3, 4. So the first thing we should write on here is a quadrilateral. Let's get that out of the way. Quad goals, quadrilateral. I'll tell you what, I'm going to be a spelling bee champ. All right, now let's go in order of all the definitions. Is it a trapezoid? Does it have 1 pair of parallel lines? Well, let's take a look. It has 1 pair going this way, and it has another pair going that way. So it actually has 2. None of the lines are ever going to intersect. They're not going to trap anything. So we know it is not a trapezoid. Is it a parallelogram? Does it have 2 pairs of opposite sides that are parallel and equal? Well, we have 1 set of parallel lines. We have 2 set of parallel lines. This side is equal to that side, and this side is equal to that side. So it is a parallelogram. Parallelogram. And again, you gotta just love those L's and parallelograms. Gets your heart going. All right, let's keep it going here. So I'll highlight that one because that's super exciting. It is a parallelogram. All right, for the next one, it says a rectangle is a parallelogram with 4 right angles. So yes, it's a parallelogram, kind of goes back to that one. But does that shape, that quadrilateral, does that have 4 right angles? Doesn't even have one. So it is not a rectangle. Is it a rhombus? It says a rhombus is a parallelogram, so check, we know it's that. And does it have 4 equal sides? Well, let's take a look. Those are equal. Those are equal. By golly, it's a rhombus. And for our next one, it says a square is a parallelogram with 4 right angles and 4 equal sides. So yes, it's a parallelogram. No, it doesn't have 4 right angles. Yes, it has 4 equal sides. Moving right along to the next one. That's a funky looking shape. But again, if I look at the sides, 1, 2, 3, 4, there's 4 sides, which makes it a quadrilateral. Quad goals. Quad. Lateral. Now let's take a look-see. Alrighty. And I could clear all this out. Help us out. Okay. So a trapezoid has 1 pair of parallel sides. So let's take a look. They might keep on going, but when these keep on going, eventually, yikeramas, they're going to touch. So right off the bat, it's a trapezoid. Something's getting trapped in there. Now, a little hint for you. When things are a trapezoid, they can't be anything else, but I do want to kind of go through the list and show you. So right off the bat, a trapezoid has 1 pair of parallel sides. Now the definition of a parallelogram is that it has 2 pairs of opposite sides that are parallel. Well, we already know that this one is only 1 pair. So if a parallelogram has 2, anything that's a parallelogram cannot be a trapezoid. And by definition, a rectangle is a parallelogram. A rhombus is a parallelogram. A square is a parallelogram. So if it's a parallelogram, it is not a trapezoid. All right, let's continue to the next one. That pretty much was your activity for this front page on identifying those quadrilaterals. We're going to do fun Kahoots during Zoom about that. But we're going to do some spiral review for number 8. It says, and I'll kind of zoom it in. Perfect. In 2013, a wildfire near Yosemite National Park burned about 400 square miles of forest. Oh my God, that's so sad. Wait. If 1 square mile equals 460 acres, about how many acres of forest were burned? Show your work. All right, so again, we are going to be multiplying just like in yesterday's, because if one of the miles is 640 acres, we have to see how many miles it'll be for a 400 square mile, how many acres for 400 square mile yards. So I have it set up here. Now you can totally line it up like that, or Miss Kujawa has showed you a trick to where at the ends of these zeros, you can just slide them on over to the end, and instead of multiplying like a 3-digit number, it actually turns into multiplying a 1-digit number, which is so much nicer. So I'm actually going to flip them. I'm just going to put 640 on the top, because everything with my zeros, I'm going to slide the digits over until I don't get a 0 anymore. And when we multiply like that, oh my goodness, that is like so much less scary. So we're just going to slide these zeros down. Slide the zeros down, and now it's the 4's turn. Let's use some red action here. 4 times 0 is 0. 4 times 4, we say 4 times 4 is a me machine. I'm going to get 1 when I'm 16, so we're going to put down the 6, carry up the 1, and then 4 times 6 is 24, plus 1 more makes it 25. So, oh, this is a really scary number, but 256,000 acres of forest burned. Oh my goodness. That reminds me of, just scratching the surface of what happened with Australia. Okay, we'll pray for them, although it was 2013. Let's keep going. Let's take a look at number 10. Number 10 says, what characteristics help you tell the difference between a rhombus and a rectangle? And then it says, explain yourself. So I drew out a rhombus and I drew out a rectangle. And again, I like to go back to the definitions because they really, really help me. So I'm just going to take a focus on the two quadrilaterals that they're asking about, which is a rhombus and a rectangle. Oh. Alrighty. So they want to know what's the difference. Well, what they have in common is that they're both parallelograms. They both have two sets of those parallel lines. And for this one, it says this one has 4 right angles, and this has 4 equal sides. So right there, that's their big difference. And I even took a look at the picture. So this one, we're going to write for a rhombus, that our rhombus has 4 equal sides. That side, that side, that side. Those are all the same. Now in a rectangle, that is not the case at all. These two are the same. And those two are the same. But along with it, one of the major things that makes it different is that there's 4 right angles, where a rhombus does not have that. So 4 right angles. And then again, we can also talk about the sides thing. They only have opposite sides are equal, so I'll just put that. Only opposite sides are equal. Alrighty, coming down to number 12, where I had to double check with Miss Harris to make sure I got this one correct. This one, it makes you think. And at first I thought it was really intimidating, and then I did it and I said, that was kind of fun. So hopefully you will feel the same way. Zoom in. It says number 12, it says a store has caps on display. All right, we didn't really need to know any of that. All right. 5 of the caps are red, and there are 4 more blue caps than there are green caps, and there are 3 fewer yellow caps than green caps. And if there are 24 caps in all, trigger word, we know we got to add, how many caps are there of each color? All right, so I'm going to show you how Miss Kujawa kind of broke this one down. I'm going to use the back side to this board. So at first, and as you can see down here, I have it like kind of color coordinated, and I wanted to get all my information organized. So I have my red caps, my blue, my green, my yellow. This is pretty much all that I know. Well, excuse me. I know there are 24 caps total. So keeping that in mind, I said, okay, if there's 24 caps in total, and I know for a fact that there's 5 red ones, let's subtract that 5, and I want to see exactly how many caps that I'm working with. So if I subtract, I get 19, all right? Because I took away the red caps because I already know how many red there are. So there really was a lot of guessing and checking for this one. I first started with the green caps. That, I think, is like the magic trick to figure out where to start with, because in our question, the first thing it says there's 4 more blue caps than green caps, but there's 3 fewer yellow caps than green caps. So when I was thinking about 3 fewer, I said, well, the green has to be at least 3. Like, let's say I said there was 1 green, but if there's 3 fewer than green of the yellow, you can't do 1 minus 3, so it has to be at least 3. Now, I'll tell you the truth. So I started off with 3, and I said, okay, that's not it. And there was a lot of guessing and checking, and I kept going up and up and up. But I'll show you that. So I said, okay, let's say there's 3 greens, all right? This is where I guessed. Let me take the other cap off. I still need to look for blue and yellow. Guessing and checking is kind of fun for me because it's a challenge. So if there's 3 fewer yellow than green, that would leave yellow caps for 0. And if the passage said there's 4 more blue caps than green, well, 3 plus 4 is 7. Whatever I add these up, it has to equal 19. And I know 7 plus 3 is not 19. So I said, okay, let's up my numbers up a little bit. Let's not start with 3. I said, let's start with 5. Let's keep going with that. So I said, okay, 5 green caps. Well, I know that there's 3 fewer yellow than green. So if I do 5 minus 3, that gives me 2. And I do know that there's 4 more blue caps than there's green. And 5 plus 4 is 9. I said, let's add this up. 9 plus 5 is 14, 15, 16. I said, OMG, I'm getting closer. So I said, let's just move this up just 1 notch. Let's make it 6 green caps. Well, 3 fewer than 6 is 3. And 4 more than 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So now I have 10 plus 6, 7, 8, 9. Boom, 19. So it took a lot of guessing and checking, but not too hard. And if I want to keep everything all color organized, the answer for this one is that there's 5 red caps, 10 blue caps, 6 green caps, I know it's probably hard to see, and 3 yellow caps. Kind of make it orange so you can see the number. All right, talk about a brain teaser. Last but not least, I'm going to hold this one up here. It says, which of the following statements is not true? Again, this one you really have to wrap your head around and kind of go back to those definitions. A trapezoid is a rectangle. Well, let's kind of come on up here and we want to compare them. All right. Is a trapezoid the same thing as a rectangle? Well, if you remember me telling you, a trapezoid kind of stands alone. You know how the other things can kind of balance off of each other? A trapezoid cannot. So a trapezoid has 1 pair of parallel lines because, again, they go across like this. But a rectangle doesn't have just 1. It has 2. And a trapezoid is going to trap something. So right off the bat, the answer is A. A trapezoid is not a rectangle. And I kind of annotated some of the differences. This is right angles. This one, the lines are definitely going to intersect at some point. But I did want to talk to you about the bottom two, because just because we feel strongly about A, we should still keep going. It says a square is also a rectangle. You might be thinking, no, Miss Kujawa, they're different. They are different, but that is a true statement. A square is considered a rectangle, but a rectangle is not a square. So let's kind of come up to the top. And again, that could seem wordy, and hopefully it'll help you in your Kahoot. So a square says it's a parallelogram, and take a look, a rectangle is a parallelogram. It has 4 right angles. It does have 4 right angles and 4 equal sides. So a square is considered a rectangle. But a rectangle is not a square because the sides are not equal. They don't have 4 equal sides. It has 2 separate sets. So that's what makes that one a little different. Let's go down to C. C says that a rectangle, a rectangle is a quadrilateral. Well, that one is true because quad means 4 quadrilaterals. So because it's right, it's wrong. It's one of those. And last but not least, and we can bubble beautifully, a square is also a rhombus. So let's slide up. And it says a square is a parallelogram, so is a rhombus. A square has 4 equal sides, so does a rhombus. Square is a rhombus. Okay. That's why they're the same. But a rhombus is not a square. A square can be a rhombus, but a rhombus cannot be a square because what does a square have that a rhombus doesn't? These 4 right angles. That's what makes them different. So a square is a rhombus, but a rhombus is not a square, which makes that one true, which makes it false. All right, guys. Make sure that you do all the odds on your own. Please put your name, date, number, and I have my office hours, so come and check me out and see me if you need assistance. And remember, Ellen always says to be kind to one another. Bye, guys.